It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Monday morning. Glad you're here with us on Golic and Wingo. Hope we're easing you into the work week as we get closer and closer to the holiday season. Things are festive. It's a Festivus for the rest of us out here. We got our decorations
Did
up.
some Christmas shopping over this weekend.
I did too. I sat on my computer and click, click, click.
Did you? We actually went out into the.
You went into the masses.
We went into the masses.
Why?
Don't know. Hadn't been out in the masses in a while.
Did you go to the mall?
We went to the mall.
Oh man.
But
that's a commitment.
There wasn't a ton of pressure of, oh my God, I got it. There was just kind of. So it wasn't awful.
You just wanted to be among the people.
I did. Long line for Santa.
Yeah. Did you sit on Santa's lap?
I had to wait 20 minutes.
Okay, it's good to know.
You know what they had? Yeah. Not only Santa, they had Mrs. Claus.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is probably good because you had the babies and stuff. Mrs. Claus was much better with them than Santa. It's exactly
than
right.
a giant, hairy, scary man.
There you have it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Lots to get into today, obviously, with all of the things that happened in football over the weekend, with the crazy finish by the Steelers, what we are bracing for, really bad news for the Eagles in that situation with Carson Wentz. Looks like he may be gone for the year, but there is also massive baseball news.
Yes, there is.
With what happened over the weekend. Giancarlo Stanton going to be traded from the Marlins to the Yankees. Derek Jeter, secret double agent maybe, working down there in Miami. A lot of people may feel that way. So we're going to get the perspective on both New York and South Beach on this, and we're going to start with the New York perspective, which is probably the more optimistic of the two. Mm-hmm. Michael Kay, host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York 98.7 FM, joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Of course, Michael also calls the Yankees games. So, Michael, what was your initial reaction when you realized you're going to get a lineup that includes Aaron Judge and now Giancarlo Stanton?
Well, I was just excited because I figured you guys would have me on today, and then I could be the first one to wish Golic a happy birthday for tomorrow. So that was my thinking.
Oh, you're a good man, Michael. I appreciate that very much.
Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very fun lineup, and it's going to be tough for pitchers to pitch to. So, my home run call is Sia, so that's going to be sickening for a lot of people because there might be 250 of them this year.
And listen, you have this to talk about. You don't have to talk about the Giants and Jets anymore for a while, thank God, with what's going on there with them. When Derek went to the Marlins, did almost every baseball, if not even layperson, know that they were probably going to trade Stanton because they just had to restart with the money situation?
Well, I mean, their situation financially is so dire. This team is going to be stripped down to nothing. I think most people knew that because they were losing so much money, and that wasn't, bookkeeping. That was real money that they were losing, and, they spent $1.2 billion to buy the team. So something had to give, and you figured that Stanton would be the first one to go, but instead it was D. Gordon, then it was Stanton. I wouldn't be surprised if they turn around and they trade Castro. Because he's owed $22 million over the next 2 years as well. They need to just break it down to almost nothing. And I know he's going to be the bad guy in South Florida, but somebody has to do it because this is not a sustaining organization paying that kind of money. They just don't draw that sort of crowd, and they don't have the television revenue coming in the way other local markets do. So this is what they had to do, and Derek's going to take the hit for it.
Right, he certainly is. And look, a lot of people are wondering, because the whole thing, Michael, is a little weird. Like, baseball helped him sort of get involved there, and of all places, it goes back to the Yankees. I'm sure this is going to be the biggest PR hit maybe he's ever had, because he never had anything like this in his playing career.
No, it was all positive as a playing career, and now he's in a situation where his desire to win is not the only thing. I mean, this is a business as well. I almost think it's laughable, though, that people think, he's doing this to help the Yankees. They had a trade first with the Giants and the Cardinals, and Stanton turned it down. The previous ownership not only gave him a $325 million contract, they gave him an absolute no-trade clause. So when he said either the Astros, the Dodgers, or the Yankees, they had to trade it to one of them, and the Yankees actually put the best deal together, which was not a great deal for a guy who won an MVP. So I don't think that Derek is trying to help the Yankees win. He's trying to get out from under it with the Marlins, and again, he's going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, that is the one thing we're to remember, that Stanton did have the choice with the no trade. We're talking to Michael Kay, ESPN New York 98.7. As far as the team, Trey and I were actually talking about last year with the Yankees. Right. They almost feel, which is weird to say for the Yankees, kind of the feel-good story. This young players on the team. Aaron Judge, everybody loved this guy. They weren't supposed to really be there last year. Then they knock off my Indians, which is the favorite, and they make the move that they made to almost making it to the World Series. They're like, oh, kind of a feel-good story. Are they back to the evil empire-hated team? Not because Stanton's a bad guy, but because here they are loading up with all the talent again?
Right on the nose, Mike. I mean, exactly what happened. They were the baby bombers. They were the little engine that could, and now that's not the case. So they are the evil empire again. Because when you look at this deal, did they really need him to compete this year? The answer is no. But you'd be foolish not to make a trade like this because he's such a great player, and they gave up so little, and they have somebody that can slide in and play second base for Castro. And the objective to get under the $197 million threshold, it's still there, and they will get under the 197. They still have enough money to get one more starter, and that completes the team. So, yeah, now they will be looked at this behemoth where they're a team that everybody can root against. And last year, you talked to a lot of people that were historically not Yankee fans, and they go, wow, it's tough not to root for this team. Now people will start to root against them, and they will be the hunted rather than the hunter they were last year.
Well, look, they're used to this. You know, this is sort of modus operandi from how they were winning all those World Series from 96 through 2009. So, I mean, this is sort of the way it was always perceived with the Yankees, Michael, which made last year really so refreshing in a way. But it seems like we're back to that. Behemoth might be the best, or monolith maybe. This just monster that's just going to go out there and, like Drogon in Game of Thrones, and just breathe fire on everybody.
Well, it's interesting. The organization has always been this, Trey. But a lot of the kids that were on the team last year that made it so fun, this is going to be new to them. They did not come into cities where they were reviled. They did not get booed all the time. People actually did like them. It's going to be interesting to see. How does a Judge handle it? How does a Bird handle it? Severino, Sanchez, those guys were never the bad guys. And now they are going to be the bad guys in this situation because of the addition of Stanton. Can they handle it? They probably can handle it, but it's going to be new to them, that's for sure.
So let's keep having fun and go 3 years down the road. Who's going to be the star of this team, Judge, Stanton, or somebody else? And by somebody else, we mean Bryce Harper.
You know what? That's the one thing that, when you look at this deal and you break it down and you try to see the pros and the cons, Bryce Harper's probably going to get $40 to $45 million a year. So is Machado. And although this deal will look suffocating when you do it right now, next year at the end of 2018, it might not look that bad because it looks like a bargain if he continues to put up those numbers because I think the market's going to continue to go up. I think this probably eliminates them out of the Harper deal. Yes, they want to get under the threshold this year, but Hal Steinbrenner said on my show last week, he said, I truly believe that you can win a championship under $200 million a year. So even if they get under 197 this year, adding Harper would not make him 200. It would make him 245. So I'd be very surprised unless they do some trading of high salary players that if they'd add another big bat like that. And if you're going to choose of all the people that are available next year, the guy that would probably be more desirable for you would be Manny Machado to come in and play third base because Headley's contract would be over.
Michael Kay with us on Golic and Wingo. Of course, he has the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York, 98.7 FM, and also calls the Yankees games. So this lineup, we know it's going to be stacked, okay? Again, these four, Didi, Sanchez, Judge, and Giancarlo, I think I hit 169 homers last year. The entire Red Sox lineup hit 168. So where's the flaw right now in this Yankees team as it's being built? Where do you see one thing that may slip them up? Because now everybody is basically going to assume they're just going to beat their way into the World Series.
Well, in the lineup, Trey, I don't see any kind of negative. I mean, really, Headley's probably going to bat ninth, and Didi Gregorius, who batted fourth last year, probably going to bat seventh. So I don't know if there's a real landing spot for any pitcher. If you want me to say, what you would be most concerned about as you're putting the Yankees together, maybe their starting pitching, which I think is pretty darn good. But you are asking me for one negative. That would be the negative. Do they have a guy who's going to be a number one starter? Is Severino going to be able to repeat what he did last year? Is Sonny Gray going to be better in a full season with the Yankees than he was last year? Are they going to bring back CC Sabathia? Those are the questions right now. I think they're in good shape in terms of that because when you look at this lineup, they are not going to have to pitch a lot of shutouts to win. The other negative, I would say, and I think you see this a lot in the playoffs, guys, there's a lot of home runs in that lineup and a lot of strikeouts.
Yep.
And usually when you survive on home runs, and you can really hit a lot of them against the underbelly of pitching in Major League Baseball during the regular season, in the postseason, those home runs don't come as easily, and also you get a lot of strikeouts. So how will they create runs? That would be it. And again, it's nitpicking, but this is not a team that's going to create runs. They're going to bludgeon opponents.
So the man that gets to put this lineup together, Aaron Boone, the new manager of the Yankees, obviously the family history in the league is, I mean, everybody knows about it, but it's his first time managing. What are the biggest hurdles for him as a first-time manager in New York with the Yankees that he's going to have to deal with?
I think the whole thing is going to be new and different for him. If you're going to bet on a guy, you bet on a guy like Aaron Boone because he's smart and he's a good communicator. But how is he going to react in the 7th or 8th inning when he has to make a decision, who to do in the bullpen, who not to go in the bullpen? So I think that's going to be the key. And it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. And I said this when they signed him. I believe this guy can be a really good manager. None of us could swear to it. You just, again, you look at the things that he brings to the party, and he certainly has all of them. But this guy's just got his driver's license, and now you're tossing the keys to a Lamborghini, which just got stronger and faster with the addition of Stanton. So I think the hardest thing now, Mike, will be he has a pressure to win. This team was not built to get to the playoffs. This team is now built to win the World Series, a lot different than last year's team.
Absolutely. Yep. Expectations are going to be through the roof, and we'll look forward to a lot of see-yas this year, Michael, on the Yankee games. Mike, we appreciate you being
Michael.
with us. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much.
Michael Kay, host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York 98.7 from 3 to 7 in the afternoon, and, of course, calls the Yankee game. So
see ya.
There's
going to be a lot
of those.
Yes, there
will.
Be a
lot of those.
Yep.
And maybe some of those strikeouts that we saw from Aaron Judge won't be there anymore because there's going to be a lot of protection around him in that lineup. Not everyone has to swing for the fences on every swing.
But that seems to be where we are now. Knock it out of the park or strike out. And you know what? Everybody seems to be fine living with it, especially when you're knocking out 50-plus home runs. You're okay with that.
You're exactly right. So obviously they're giddy in New York. I'm assuming it's the exact opposite feeling in South Beach. And Dan Le Batard of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz now joins us here on Golic and Wingo. And Dan, listen, this has got to feel like lather, rinse, repeat for anybody that's been with the Marlins since 1997 or so.
Well, it's offensive. The way they run this business is, and that baseball's allowed it, that baseball's allowed all of this, that they gifted a franchise to Jeter, that Jeter overspent on the franchise, that the franchise was so misrun that it had a lot of debt. All of this was supposed to stop. They told us when the stadium got built, they told us that this was going to stop. And now the most unpopular owner in the history of South Florida sports has got people even more agitated than they were before, because the betrayals never stopped down here. It's a foolproof business that baseball got. It's like a racket. It's a racket. They gave Jeter a team, even though he didn't have the money for a team. Jeter's paying himself $5 million a year. That's as much as Cashman now makes. And his first move is to just get rid of the bad business decision he already made by buying all of this debt, by just getting rid of all of their good players. And while I understand the need to get rid of that contract, they promised us when the stadium was built in our broke-ass city, they promised us that this stuff was going to stop. And right now, it's worse than it's ever been.
So, and I completely agree with you. So let's just start with the Jeter getting the team. Was there, I guess it couldn't have been a shock knowing the situation the team was in. Are you still surprised that he did all the wheeling and dealing and dumping the money that he's done, or was that expected given the team he took over?
Well, no, he announced it. It wasn't expected because we were told this would stop, not that it would be worse than it's ever been. They can't afford anything. Jeter's coming out here with his hand out. Jeter has this name, and baseball gave him a gift because they want his name around this team. And the other buyer, a Cuban guy from Miami, planned to have a payroll. He planned to spend, and baseball gave it to this guy. And Jeter overspent $1.1 billion for a franchise in South Florida that nobody cares about. They pay $1.1 billion because baseball's running a racket. I'm telling you, they gifted this to Derek Jeter in a way that should be bothersome to anybody who cares about competitive sports.
Dan Le Batard with us from the Dan Le Batard Show. Stugotz coming up after we're done here on Golic and Wingo. Dan, I think you just hit on it. You said it was a team that no one cares about, and now they're going to care about it even less with this trade. I mean, how do they try and find any sort of excitement about this franchise being there at this point?
Well, but Trey, the reason they don't care, like the reason that you've gotten to a place that's even worse than anger, where it's sort of indifference, it's the worst place a fan base can reside.
Right.
It's the worst place a business can reside, where you've just gotten to a sort of numb indifference because of the number of betrayals like this. This is such a weird thing to have champions, multiple champions stripped down, to have the MVP of the league and to say, in his prime, and to say, when do you ever see the MVP of the league in his prime? Sorry, can't do it. The Marlins, guys, listen to what I'm saying here. The Marlins have had two of the worst trades in the history of baseball, right up there with Ruth. They traded Miguel Cabrera, and now they've traded the replacement for Miguel Cabrera, the guy who became Miguel Cabrera. So no franchise in the history of sports has done that. Like, that's never happened before, where you have these. You trade Ruth once, and it stays with you for 100 years. They've traded Ruth twice in the last 15.
So I guess in totality here, not to make it all sound even worse, but the trades that go on there, you had obviously LeBron down there winning a couple championships, and that's all gone. The Dolphins aren't relevant at this point, even though they were in the playoffs last year. I mean, as far as really challenging for something, what is the South Beach sports fan? What are they looking to? What are they looking for? What can get them up to a positive note, if anything?
Drugs.
That may be an honest assessment.
I mean, seriously, I mean, fans are buying tickets there for either the Dolphins or Miami or for the Marlins. I mean, is there? Do you see 5 years from now?
Painkillers, Oxycontin.
5 years from now,
something with a numbing effect, I think is what we're going for.
So
here.
We're all numb now. 5 years from now, do you think there'll be anything to look forward to?
They should have. They should have like an anesthesia night at the ballpark. They would get a crowd if they were to do that. You could come in and
Pink Floyd playing in the background, so we're all just comfortably numb. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like the ushers would say, "Look, the betrayal. You won't even feel it. It won't even hurt. The betrayal. You won't even feel it."
One night and everything will be fine.
Oh man.
Well, it does bring a bigger look. Obviously, it stinks in Florida, but in a bigger picture, what do you think this is for baseball? Because there will some that will say, look, hey, the Yankees are a brand. The Yankees are the most popular brand, and having that team once again a lineup like this is good for the game. What do you say?
Yeah, of course it's good for the game. Yes, it's good for baseball to have these two giants in that media market with the most famous uniform in sports. Those pinstripes still matter. Like, of course, it's good for the sport and it's good for the national sport. But, like, it should be sort of – it feels like Wall Street fraud that the former Yankee, the famous former Yankee, and some people who are listening to this are going to say, well, they tried to trade him to St. Louis first. They tried to trade him to the Giants. No, he told them from the beginning he wasn't going there. He told them New York or Los Angeles is where you need to send me. The problem is that they didn't have to trade him. They think they have to trade him. They didn't have to trade him. They traded him. But we're in a place where – you've got Derek Jeter, former famous Yankee, aiding his former team in a way that makes him, Mr. December. And I'm telling you, what happened here with South Florida, we all in South Florida should have gotten one of those famous Jeter gift baskets Sunday morning after the way that played out.
Oh, all right, Dan. On a lighter note, just to leave you maybe with a smile, I
agree.
The
prospects aren't any good.
Dan, I'm trying to make you smile one more time before we say goodbye.
Good.
Outside of that making you smile, I agreed with you when you had Ron McGill on, your animal guy. It's a chicken playing the piano. I don't know how the keyboard. I don't know how you can just kind of go over that like you did and say it was almost a no-brainer that you could be able to figure it out.
Thank you. Yes, for those of you who don't know, there is a chicken that can play, like, I don't know whether it's a xylophone or a piano, and the zoo guy said it's not that impressive because you could just teach a chicken, with food and stuff, and it was playing songs. It had learned how to play songs, and so I tried to explain to him. I mean, it's a chicken.
The chicken.
The chicken's brain is not like it's a chicken. I don't care. I didn't think chickens could learn that way, but thank you for bringing some light into my life.
I agree with you, Dan. Thank you.
If we did nothing else this morning, that's what we were hoping to do.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks very
See
much. Obviously, a very disgruntled fan base, and understandably so.
Well, I mean, they have nothing to hang.
So.
That's why I thought if there was any way you could hang on to one of them, it would certainly you would think Stanton, but that's obviously the biggest paycheck out there to have some kind of draw. But man, I mean, there's zero. There can't be any hope out there at all. Of the people they're getting rid of, you're the biggest bopper in the game right now, and a good dude, you're letting him go, along with others as well. I mean, how can you have any hope whatsoever down there?
And the worst part is, this is like the third time.
Yeah.
And it's the worst one. It may be the worst, as Dan was saying, too. Like, that was the best point he made. We've done this before. We've traded Babe Ruth before.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And they said it would be different.
No, instead, it's going to be lather, rinse, repeat. Yep. It's going to be tough. And we'll see how that shakes out going forward and throughout the season. Coming up, a predictable award that led to a guarantee from a strange place. Although I think he may be right.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
That was Baker Mayfield, as we thought he would, winning the Heisman Trophy over the weekend. Congratulations to him.
I thought he did a nice job, too, up there. I thought Billy Sims maybe a little too much with the boomer, yelling in the back there.
It happens.
Might have been a little.
What is he, the 6th Oklahoma? I think
6th, yes.
Wow, good for them. Congratulations.
Still behind Notre Dame. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
No, it was a thought bubble.
Did I say that out loud?
It just popped out.
I'm sorry about that.
No, don't be.
But, hey, he did not get the highest percentage. That's still, again, I think, was it 91.6?
Troy Smith, yeah.
Troy Smith, he got, I think, 86% of the vote. Deserved to win it. Everybody thought he was going to win it. I thought did a nice job with his acceptance speech as he gets ready for the playoffs. So, and then beyond, which the playoffs I think are going to be a ball to watch. And then, boy, oh boy, the ranking and the things that are done for players who the only thing they'll do after the bowl games is put on shorts and a T-shirt.
Yep.
But boy, oh boy, how they will be picked and prodded and evaluated.
Oh, listen, it's crazy. Golick and Wingo presented by 30 for 30 Podcasts. Subscribe right now to 30 for 30 Podcasts in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Delta, making your travel experience informed, connected, and seamless. Keep climbing. I've always said this, Mike. There should be 2 drafts. One right now or after the bowl game. However you want to do it. Right now after all the bowl games are over. And then one in April when it actually happens. And see how incredibly different those 2 drafts are going to be.
Could not agree more. My wife was just talking to me yesterday. She says, you guys should write down any analyst that comes on, any quarterback, talking about quarterbacks, and what they say right now when the season is over, and then what they say in early April, and if it changes. Because what's going to change outside of, all the stuff at the combine, there are some things I can see. If you get a guy up to a whiteboard, how does he diagram it? What does he do when you're looking at film with him? I can understand some of that. But, man, to me, the best evaluation, it is nice to talk to a person. I understand that. But the best evaluation just happened.
Yeah.
Just happened.
It was the
film.
film.
And it's still going to happen in the bowl games and certainly the playoffs. But that's the best evaluation of a player you can get.
Well, listen, there's going to be a lot of evaluation on Baker Mayfield because of the amazing run he had. And, look, he's been great for a couple of years at Oklahoma.
Yes, he has. Absolutely.
Let's be clear about that. But, there's a lot that goes with this guy. And our insider on the NFL, Adam Schefter, made a guarantee regarding Baker Mayfield yesterday.
I saw Todd McShay had him ranked as the 27th rated prospect. I will guarantee you right now, Baker Mayfield is going in the first round of the draft, and I will bet you he goes higher than people think. They love his competitive spirit. They love all the skills that he brings, the flexibility that he provides. He's drawing comparisons to Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, same stature, not real big. But what's interesting to me, and here's what's always funny, I've had at least 3 teams say to me, the quarterback we really love is Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
And when I start hearing that,
With Rosen and the idea of Darnold there.
I'm just telling you, when I start hearing that, that tells me that guy is going to go higher than people expect.
Yeah, and again, people understand this is not him with a hot take.
Right.
This is not him guessing. This is what Adam is hearing from people that he's talking to, and it sets up for a fascinating quarterback draft. I mean, you have Darnold, you have the Joshes, Rosen, and Allen. Mm-hmm. You also have Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State, who's got the frame.
Right.
Lamar Jackson. I mean, there are all kinds of quarterbacks in this draft, and now you throw Baker Mayfield in the mix. It could be one of the most fascinating first rounds we've seen in quite a while.
I'll be interested when the grades come out. More now what the grades are going to be. And by the way, another congrats to Baker Mayfield. I'm pretty Riley is confirming it all for me. The first walk-on, I believe, to win a Heisman. He walked on. He walked on twice. Walked on at Texas Tech and then walked on at Oklahoma as well. So really, again, kudos to him and what he has done. And I think one of the reasons, because we sit there and talk about his side, the other guys we're talking about that you mentioned, Rudolph, Allen, Rose, and Darnold, these are all like more the prototypical 6'4", 6'5", anywhere from 220 to 240.
The Carson Wentz body.
Type
basically.
of a guy. Baker Mayfield's, I think, listed at 6'1", which we'll see is even 6'1" when you get to the combine, and 220. He's a solid kid, that's for sure. But one of the things we're seeing now, and I think it's the right way to go, while we're not turning it into college football in the pros, what you do, and I think it's the right thing to do, is you take what they do best. It would seem to be, instead of saying, okay, we kind of like what we see out of you in college, we envision you in the NFL, now go into our system and fit our system.
Right.
Is you have to kind of let them morph into what they're going to be while making them an NFL quarterback. And still, for the most part, there are a few exceptions. Certainly, why am I drawing a blank on Seattle? And
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, where you're running around like crazy
because
making things happen.
Yeah.
But remember a couple of years ago when Cam Newton won the MVP, we talked about he and Russell Wilson, how they both improved in the pocket. You still have to be able to fire the ball from the pocket to win in the NFL. But teams are taking advantage of the athletic ability of quarterbacks. And Baker Mayfield can make stuff happen. And normally you would say, listen, if you're making it up on the run, you're not going to make it in the NFL. Right. You're just not going. You can't just kind of draw it up. You know, you run to the parked car, you run to the fire hydrant.
Make a left at the bus stop.
I'm going to spin out of this thing, and then we're all going to converge here. While it can work occasionally, you can't make a living off of it. But you can use these quarterback strengths, and that's one of Baker's strengths, to get him out of the pocket, to get him on the move. He is dangerous out there. So I do think that's becoming more and more in vogue, and I do think it's the right way to go. Use their talents to their best capable abilities at the next level. So I could see that out of Mayfield. Listen, players love him. I mean, he seems to be
those two linemen when he missed 2 plays brought out his jersey for that one game.
Here's the thing: you want me to sit there and say because the people in Kansas wouldn't shake his hands and he grabbed his crotch that I'm going to say, oh my God? No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. I don't care about that. That doesn't bug me one bit. You can rip me all you want for that. That's fine. That is not going to go, well, I can't believe he did that. I'm not going to pick him. No, that's not going to happen. I'm looking at what he does on the field. Now, if he has off-the-field issues, that's something that you have to look into certainly as well. But that's not one of the on-field things I'm looking at and saying I'm going to downgrade and that's going to cost him some spots. Not in my book. So he has really done well for himself, and I think it will be a real because Marcus Mariota kind of, but he was bigger.
Yeah.
He still had a little more size to him, and you see they're really now. He's not having a great year this year.
No, he's not
at all. But we saw what he can do, and they've really helped use his athletic abilities to his benefit, or they had early on in his career. We'll see where it goes from there, and I could see the same thing happening with Baker Mayfield.
Well, the interesting thing with Mayfield is obviously he has that. He has that undeniable competitive spirit, and the results have been there. The questions about his size, I think, are legitimate when you look at the speed along with the size, because the one thing about Russell is he's pretty fast, Russell Wilson.
Is.
And I'm not sure Baker is running the same 40 time as Russell. And while you normally say with a quarterback that's not that big of a deal, but with the way Baker plays and the way Russell plays, that becomes a bigger deal.
You don't want them taking hits at all.
That becomes a bigger deal. And look, whether it's right or wrong, people are going to say I see a little bit of what Johnny Manziel did.
They are.
In Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And the question then becomes, can Baker avoid the traps that Johnny Manziel fell into? Because they both sort of like make it up as you go along kind of deal, that all wild-eyed, crazy, all that kind of stuff. There is a little bit of that, and when you saw what happened with Manziel,
right,
there's going to be a really tough evaluation, I think, of Baker Mayfield along those lines. But if you're going by his production on the field and what he can bring, I think what Adam is hearing is actually very accurate. I mean, this draft is going to be phenomenal in terms of the interest from the quarterback's perspective. But I do wonder, because I've said this a bunch, running quarterbacks are like dogs that chase cars and long putts for pars. They don't last.
They don't last.
Unless you're Cam Newton, who is 6'5" and 250
So he'll
pounds.
last a little longer, than most. So we'll see. The best thrower in my book out of the group, throwing the ball, and there's some good throwers in this, is Josh Rosen. But there are questions of him. How much does he love the game? What type of leader is he really on and off the field? I mean, everybody has some questions, and I know those are a couple of questions about him. But I'm looking at on the field and throwing a ball. They all have had their big moments of throwing the ball, and they all, because we've talked about Rosen and Allen and Darnold the most, they've also been a bit disappointing as well this year.
Yeah.
Sometimes more disappointing than we thought they were going to be. But every now and then when they make those throws, they all throw the ball really well. I think the best thrower, I do believe, is Rosen.
Actually, be a great Twitter question on Golic and Wingo. Would you want your NFL team to draft if you need a quarterback, would you want your team to draft Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have one of those more pocket passers that we're talking about, Darnold, Rosen, and Allen? We'll put that up on Golic and Wingo. See what you think about that. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, some NFL games we haven't gotten into yet. A big win for the Panthers. And is it closing time in Chicago for the coach already? And, of course, more on the snow game, which, by the way, because of everything else going on, we haven't talked enough about that.
I agree.
That was phenomenal. We'll get into that. Rolling on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're here with us. Lots to get into, and we just had the story with Baker Mayfield. Adam Schefter believes he's going to go in the first round. We put it up on the Twitter poll. Would you want Baker Mayfield to be drafted by your NFL team? And right now it's a 50-50 split almost. 51% says yes. 49% says no, 600-plus votes. We'll keep you updated on that throughout the day. I want to just let everybody know what something just happened here. It's been a story all year long. The NFL, declining ratings, conflict, PR hits, blah, 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 blah. They're in trouble. Well, maybe not so much as you think, because Verizon just re-upped their deal with the NFL for streaming and digital rights, and they doubled their price over the next 5 years. It was about $1.2 billion. It's going to be a $2.5 billion deal.
As I'll say again, because we just had Dan Le Batard on to talk about the Marlins and South Beach and sports there, but he had also, we were going over his comments last week when he said the NFL is in a worse spot now than they were 6 years ago, right?
Yep.
Am I saying it was 6 years ago, the NFL is in a worse spot. And as I said then, it's what you're looking at. If you're looking at from a PR standpoint and the hits the game have taken,
absolutely,
I would absolutely agree with you. If you're looking at from a money situation, 6 years ago they made $8.5 billion, and now they're making $14 billion, and Verizon is doubling their price tag. We have streaming games that are going to jump into the fray and add more money. So I guess it's the way you look at it. Ratings are down, no doubt about it. Is that costing them money? They're still making way more money than they were 6 years ago. So that will be the question is, how are you looking at it? What is your definition of better or worse, successful or not? If you're running a company and your bottom line close to doubled over 6 years, you're going to be happy. But for those that say, well, money isn't everything, well, money's important. There's no doubt about it. But people like to be liked, and you like to be looked at as a league that everybody likes. And still, it's very, very popular. But it has gone through the washer. There's no doubt about that. And getting hung out to dry in a few of these situations. So it all depends on how you're looking at it, but it doesn't seem the money stream is stopping anytime soon.
Well, that's the thing. And look, people look at the ratings. If you want to take an actual look at the television ratings for the NFL and compare them with declining viewership across everything, they're almost identical. They're literally almost identical. So the fall in NFL television ratings, whatever it is in no way any different from the fall of anything else on television, because we as consumers are getting things in many different ways now. There's a whole generation that just wants everything on their phone or on their iPad or on their computer, and that's enough for them. So the idea that those numbers signify something specifically within the NFL just don't match up with the actual numbers.
In the same vein, though, you have to give like the NBA ratings are up.
Yes.
They're not going down.
Correct.
Like other sports channels and non-sports channels. They're going up. So a lot of times you compare within your world of sports, and I know baseballs have remained somewhat flat, which quite honestly, flat would be good.
Yes, absolutely.
But basketballs are going up. And kudos to them and what they're doing. And right now the NFLs are going down. So as I've always said, it depends on what your definition of, am I successful, more successful than I was 6 years ago? If you're talking money, yes. You're talking PR, no. So which do you hold on to?
Well, I get the question then becomes, what's the longer play?
Right.
You know what I mean? Which one is the longer play? And if you're the NFL, and I think they're trying to address some of these things. And, quite frankly, from a PR perspective, what happened over the weekend Sunday, there were a couple things that weren't really good. The Tom Savage issue that we've been talking about, and we'll probably bring up again with Ryan Clark when he joins us in the next hour. And then the issue of what happened at the end of the Seattle game in Jacksonville. From a PR standpoint, that doesn't look really good. But at the end of the day, does that PR still take away in a significant way from the fan base and the business model? And this Verizon deal tells us no, it doesn't.
Yeah. So if we sit there and say that the NFL is not going to lose any money, that they're only going to get more money, would you say, okay, then they're a successful business?
Yeah.
Or for a lot of people that and there have been, because ratings are down, that aren't watching it anymore, do you view it differently? Interesting.
Well, it is. And I can't remember which president it was. The business of America is business. You know, and that's sort of the way he always described it. And at the end of the day, the money's still coming in. When the PR hits start taking away from the money coming in, then you've got a real problem.
And that's going to be the advertisers. We know that's the big thing. When the advertisers, the big hitting advertisers are affected, that's when it affects your bottom line. And you just mentioned an advertiser that doubled down on the NFL. So.
And again, the big thing there is Calvin Coolidge, by the way, who said the business of America is business. Don't know why I didn't have all my Calvin Coolidge knowledge.
I remember voting for him.
Sure, we did. We got a lot done there. Push him over the Electoral College top, I think we did. So we'll try and avoid Calvin Coolidge references for the rest of the show.
I would say so.
That might be the best thing we could possibly
do. One's enough.
Yeah, one per month is probably enough. Good. The over-under on the Calvin Coolidge line,
good.
We've satisfied our requirement for the rest of 2017. When we come back here, coming up next, a questionable play, a potential crushing injury, the snow game, and are we seeing another head coach that may be on the way out the door?
Yeah, boy. You know it's coming, but it's always a bummer when someone's about to lose their job, but you know it's right there on the horizon.
We'll get into that when we come back. It is Golic and Wingo on a Monday morning. So much to get to as football dominates the spectrum.